Sometimes life places signs in front of you that refuse to be ignored. They are not loud or dramatic, but quiet, subtle, and strangely precise. Small moments that look like coincidence on the surface, even though you were not searching for answers. A silence that suddenly feels different than before. A message that almost reaches you but stops just short. A feeling of someone's presence arriving at the exact moment you finally decide to let go. There is a specific turning point in every deep energetic connection where, outwardly, nothing appears to have changed at all, yet inwardly, everything has shifted. You may have felt a sense of restlessness growing for days or even weeks. Not a panic, not anxiety, but a calm and strange certainty. As if the air around you has become heavier or thinner at the same time. As if memories, sensations, or the awareness of someone who is not physically near suddenly starts appearing without effort. Take a moment now and breathe. Listen carefully to what your heart has been trying to tell you for a long time. Even if your mind has been pushing it away, trying to silence it with logic or doubt. What you are sensing is not imagination. It is not wishful thinking. That gentle pressure in your chest, that unfamiliar vibration in your body, is not a fantasy and not desperation. It is confirmation. It is the signal that an unseen bond between two inner worlds has tightened. Something has shifted, and it is real. Today, this message is about the person who tried for a long time to suppress what they feel, but can no longer hide it, not even from themselves. The fear they are experiencing now is not shallow or ego-driven. It is not the fear of control or possession. It comes from a much deeper place. When someone who carries your energy within their inner world begins to sense that they are truly losing you, something awakens inside them without permission. It is sudden, uncomfortable, and deeply unsettling. For a long time, this person may have moved through life believing you would always remain available, always present, always holding the light while they decided whether or not it felt safe to step closer. That belief gave them comfort, even confidence. But energy does not stay frozen. The moment you changed, the moment you stopped waiting, a shock moved through the connection and reached the core of their reality. No amount of pride, avoidance, or reasoning could block it. There comes a moment when the inner self stops listening to excuses. In that moment, absence becomes loud. The soul recognizes the space where you once were and realizes that you may no longer exist in their future. That realization is happening now. You do not need proof in the form of messages or calls to know this. You feel it because deep connections do not respond to time or logic. They respond to vibration. When the inner world of another person senses it is about to lose what felt like home, movement begins. Not from intention, but from necessity. Many people believe that silence means the end, that distance equals forgetting. But in the realm of energy, silence is often where the biggest changes are born. The person who once appeared distant, cold, or unsure is now entering a phase where awareness can no longer be avoided. Old distractions fail. Suppression no longer works. Something pushes them forward, not by choice, but by the need to restore balance that was disturbed when you pulled your energy back. To understand why this fear of losing you is so intense now, you must understand what you changed, perhaps without even realizing it. Something shifted that permanently altered the dynamic. You are not the same, and that matters more than you know. For a long time, your energy likely flowed outward toward this person. It carried waiting, hoping, questioning. You may have spent quiet nights wondering if you mattered, if you were remembered, if your presence had meaning. This energy came from love, but it was often felt on the other side as pressure, and paradoxically, that pressure made it easier for them to stay still. As long as you carried the connection alone, they did not have to hold it. But something happened. You slowly began choosing yourself, not to punish them, not to create distance, but as an act of respect for your own inner world. And when you turned back toward yourself, the vibration changed completely. When you stop chasing, an empty space appears. Life, the human heart, and the universe do not tolerate emptiness. Before, that space was filled by your effort, your attention, your availability. Now it is quiet. But this is not empty silence. It is inner absence. And that difference is critical. Physical absence is simply not being together. Inner absence is no longer needing validation. It is releasing emotional dependence and returning to your own center. That is what is being felt now. Before, you gave certainty. Now there is no guarantee. Imagine two people holding a rope. If one always pulls, the other can relax, resist, or drift without effort. The moment one person releases the rope to tend to themselves, the other loses balance. That loss reveals a truth that was previously hidden. Without your constant emotional energy supporting their comfort, they must face their own emptiness. The world suddenly feels colder because the warmth they relied on is no longer being given freely. Emotional absence is far more powerful than words or silence. Someone can adapt to messages stopping, but not to losing their place in your inner world. When you stop pushing, there is nothing left to resist. Defenses fall, feelings surface, and movement begins, born from discomfort. The space you left demands to be filled, and since you no longer fill it with effort or half measures, only one option remains. They must face it themselves. That is why you sense their energy now. Even in silence, they are unsettled, reflecting, remembering. Your withdrawal did not break the connection. It stripped away noise and left truth exposed. This is why the reaction is happening now and not before. Every person carries unseen parts within them, pieces they avoid acknowledging. Fears, insecurities, but also deep capacity for love. When they pulled away in the past, it was not truly about you. It was about what your closeness activated inside them. As long as you were present and reaching, they could project their confusion onto you. But when you stepped back, that projection collapsed. They are now alone with their inner reflection. The story continues, but they realize both the hero and the obstacle are themselves. This confrontation is intense. You represent something specific in their inner world. Not just anyone could trigger this. You reflect a part of themselves they lost or suppressed. Your way of loving, your presence, your depth, mirrors a truth they avoided. Losing you feels like losing access to a missing part of their own soul, and that is why this fear runs so deep. Perhaps you reflect the vulnerability they never allowed themselves to reveal. Perhaps you carry the calm, the sense of belonging, the feeling of home that their restless inner world has always been searching for. That is why, when you step away, they do not experience it as the loss of a possible partner or a connection that simply faded. Instead, it feels as though a vital piece of who they are is being pulled away from them. The fear rising inside them is not about control, and it is not manipulation. It is an awakening to the truth that you are not interchangeable. They are beginning to understand that what existed between you cannot be recreated with someone else. This awareness carries weight. It presses on them because it exposes what truly mattered beneath everything they once considered stable in their life. The inner voice that once told them to run in order to stay safe now tells them something very different, that safety may have existed in the bond they chose to ignore. They begin to see that it was not an absence of feeling, but an inability to manage the depth of what they felt, a fear of being seen too clearly. Inside them, a silent conflict unfolds between the part that clings to distance and control and the deeper part that recognizes a sense of arrival in you. When people live from fear, they appear detached. But when the soul senses real loss, fear weakens and truth rises. This truth now replays moments, examines memories, and dissects words that once felt unimportant. Scenes that seemed small now return with intensity, as if life is replaying them slowly to show what was overlooked. This realization does not bring calm. It creates tension, movement, and inner strain. They feel divided between the identity they built to survive and the deeper understanding that pulls them back toward you. This internal division does not stay contained. It creates a state of emotional fragmentation that goes far beyond simple sadness. What they are facing is a transformation crisis. Even if they try to appear normal on the outside, there are signs that escape their control. Now that you understand that silence does not equal peace, it becomes important to look at what is happening behind the scenes of their daily life. From the outside, everything may look unchanged. They still show up to responsibilities, attend gatherings, and present a composed image. But this structure is unstable. Internally, there is confusion, pressure, and emotional disorder that manifests through specific symptoms. A person who once avoided their emotions now discovers that nothing can be escaped when it lives inside you. The restlessness you sensed earlier grows stronger and becomes constant, disturbing their natural rhythm and inner balance. One of the clearest signs of this awakening through loss appears in their sleep. It is very common for them to experience insomnia or to wake suddenly in the early hours before dawn, often between 3 and 4 in the morning. During this time, mental defenses are weakest. Logic sleeps and the deeper layers rise. They wake with a heavy chest, with fear that has no practical explanation, because its source is emotional, not external. In the quiet of the night, without distractions, their thoughts drift toward you. The absence they feel becomes almost physical, pressing against them in the dark. This turmoil does not end with the night. During the day, their own mind turns against them. Thoughts intrude without warning. While working, driving, or talking to others, an image of you suddenly appears. These are not chosen memories. They arrive on their own. And what stands out is not conflict, not reasons for distance, but warmth, laughter, comfort, and the feeling of being safe with you. Their memory begins to correct the story. Without the excuses they once relied on, only the truth of the bond remains. This review of the past hurts because it clashes sharply with their present reality, where your energy no longer feeds the connection. In the modern world, this inner struggle finds expression through digital behavior. Pride or fear may still stop them from reaching out directly, so their longing looks for relief in quiet observation. It is very likely that they follow your online presence closely. They avoid leaving signs because that would expose them, but they watch, they check, revisit old conversations, and seek fragments of your energy to ease the withdrawal they feel. This is not simple curiosity. It is an attempt to reassure themselves that they still exist somewhere in your world. When they see you calm, glowing, or moving forward, they feel both relief and fear. Relief because you are still there, and fear because you're no longer dependent on them. This silent watching deepens the emptiness instead of filling it. They search for proof that you still wait. When they sense your independence, the fear intensifies, forcing them to confront the reality that time may be running out. This emotional pressure grows so strong that it no longer stays contained within them. Energy behaves like water. When blocked, it seeks a way to move. Since direct communication is closed, this unspoken longing and pain begin to travel through the invisible channels that were always present between you. At this point, you're no longer just observing their process. You begin to feel it. In connections of this depth, emotional boundaries soften. Feelings cross without permission. Experiences arise that logic cannot explain, but the heart recognizes immediately. Although you appear as two separate people, on a deeper level, your inner worlds overlap. Between two people who have deeply marked each other, a shared inner space forms. Imagine an underground current connecting both of you. When one stirs it, the movement reaches the other side. Distance does not stop it. Silence does not block it. The vibration moves instantly. You may have noticed sudden emotional shifts without reason, moments of sadness, tightness in your chest, fear in your body, or unexpected waves of love that appear without cause. In many cases, these feelings are not yours. You are receiving what the other cannot process alone. The sadness reflects their grief. The fear mirrors their worry that it is too late. The love appears when their defenses fall for a moment. This emotional exchange is proof that the bond still exists. The connection has not ended. It has become clearer, and life itself begins to confirm it through meaningful patterns and coincidences. The world around you starts reflecting the inner state of the connection, as if reality itself is responding to the shift that has already occurred. Suddenly, his name begins to appear in places you did not expect. You hear a song that holds meaning for you at the exact moment you were thinking about finally letting go. You glance at the clock and notice repeating numbers again and again, like 1111 or 2122 appearing without effort. These are small signals of order, gentle reminders that something is aligning, that the process is alive, and that what you are sensing is not imagined. Even the world of dreams becomes a meeting place. During the day, this person's outer self struggles to stay in control, to build emotional walls, and to explain the distance with logic. But during sleep, those defenses soften, the controlling mind steps aside, and the deeper self moves freely. In this phase, it is very common for you to dream of him with striking clarity. These dreams feel vivid, intense, and more real than ordinary thoughts. In them, communication flows easily. There may be closeness, apologies, understanding, and messages that feel unmistakably true. These experiences are not simply the mind wishing for comfort. They are encounters on a deeper level, where the connection continues to communicate even before anything changes in physical reality. It is as if your inner worlds are already adjusting while your outward lives are still catching up. Take a moment to reflect on your own recent experiences. If you have felt emotions that seem to arrive from nowhere, if his name appears repeatedly, or if dreams have left you calm and certain upon waking, you are not alone in this. These signs exist to prepare you, not to reopen wounds. They appear because the energy between you is reaching a point of intensity where change becomes unavoidable. All of these inner and outer signals serve one purpose. They are not meant to trap you in longing, but to show you that the energy that has been building is nearing its peak. The pressure in the unseen channels that connect you has been growing steadily. The resistance this person has held on to for so long is weakening under the weight of his own feelings and the undeniable truth of what exists between you. However, just before this resistance breaks completely, you are likely to witness one last confusing stage. Just as the darkest hour comes before morning, the strongest resistance often appears just before surrender. This stage is often the most painful and misleading part of the entire journey. It is the moment when many people lose trust and walk away, even though they are closer than ever to the shift they have been waiting for. You may notice that despite all the inner signs, the outer reality suddenly seems to contradict everything you feel. This person may pull back even more, appear colder, sharper, or more distant than before. He may block communication, show exaggerated happiness in public, or behave as if you no longer exist. This behavior is not proof that he has moved on. It is evidence that his inner structure is under extreme pressure. What you are seeing is the final surge of resistance, not the end of the connection. To understand this, imagine a band being stretched tighter and tighter. For it to snap forward with force, it must first be pulled back as far as possible. The stronger the pullback, the more powerful the release. This final withdrawal is that tension. The protective part of his mind senses that it is losing control. It realizes that the fear of losing you and the depth of his feelings are dismantling the image he built to feel safe. Faced with this threat, the mind reacts aggressively. This coldness is not strength, it is desperation. He is not fighting you, but himself. By acting indifferent, he tries to convince both you and himself that he does not need you, because admitting that he does would mean admitting fear, vulnerability, and the truth that he was never as detached as he pretended. This phase is your test. Life is asking whether you trust what your eyes see or what your inner knowing feels. If you respond with fear, chase, or demand clarity, the pressure dissolves and allows him to retreat back into comfort. But if you remain steady, grounded, and aware that this retreat is the final defense, you allow the pressure to complete its work. This stage is deeply paradoxical. The quieter the outer world becomes, the louder the inner conflict grows. Inside him, everything pulls toward you, while his rigid thoughts order him to stay away. This inner war drains him. Maintaining indifference while feeling the opposite requires enormous effort. No one can sustain a mask that contradicts their inner truth for long. Energy always moves toward release. The connection between you is like water gathering behind a barrier. Walls can be reinforced with pride and stubbornness, but if the current continues to rise, the structure will eventually fail, and when it does, it will not be subtle. The collapse comes as an inner shock that makes denial impossible. In that moment, he realizes that control cost him too much, that he lost more than he was willing to admit. The resistance breaks not because he plans it, but because his inner truth leaves him no choice. What follows is the movement you have sensed from the beginning, a gesture, a message, an action, or a moment of clarity that carries honesty instead of confusion, not driven by fear, but by the understanding that the bond cannot be ignored. The truth reaches him fully, and when it does, it guides him back, not with hesitation, but with the quiet certainty that with you, his inner world finally finds space to breathe again.